Hey, I'm Dave from boyinaband.com, and welcome to day 4 of the 7-day song on Dirty Dubstep. Yesterday in day 3, we made the last of our dirty basses, and today we're progressing into some high-end sounds to make the prettiest sections of the track that will be absolutely destroyed by a massive dirty bass when the drop hits. So, we'll start with a nice bell-like arpeggio synth. Making metallic sounds is a useful technique for making dirtier sounds as well, so even if you want to make a purely brutal dubstep track with no melodic reprise whatsoever, you'll probably find something useful here. So, we're going to begin with a combinator, a nice big 14:2 mixer for the extra auxiliary inputs it provides, and we're going to start off with an instance of Thor. I'll add in some notes to start us off. Okay, so those notes are in and I've soloed it out. Let's name the combinator before we forget as well. RP goodness. And we're going to initialize Thor. Open it up. And we'll start with this analog oscillator to make a nice high-pitched top to the sound with the default saw wave, just as it is. Then for the body of the sound, we're going to make oscillator 2 into a wavetable oscillator. And if we scroll down, we'll eventually find the raising sign wavetable. This will give a sitar-like tone to the sound after a bit of modulation. So, run them through. Bring the frequency, leave about there, and we're going to adjust the filter envelope so the decay and sustain are right down. We're going to take this one to about 350 milliseconds, and the sustain again right down to about a similar level. And we're going to link this to the position of the wavetable, this knob here. Remember that position controls where in the wavetable the sound starts from, so it can really change the sound. And if you modulate that, you can get some even more interesting moving synth tones. So, in the modulation bus routing section down here, we're going to route filter env 2, oscillator 2, pos. So the position in oscillator 2. And if we take a listen to it at the moment, brilliant for some cheesy crunk, but not quite dubstep yet. So let's turn the amount down. Hear how that makes a nice little difference to the sound? We're going to change the position up a little bit to make it more prominent. And don't worry, the sound won't be this weak by the time we're finished with it. Let's bring it down an octave. And turn up the release. And there, the start of the wavetable is bassier than the end of the raising sine wavetable, that is. So it gives a sound not unlike a quick high-pass filter sweep, but with a more interesting tonality. As I previously mentioned, it reminds me of a sitar, just like Radiohead's song Creep after watching Bill Bailey's Tinsel Worm DVD. So that's the center of the sound almost done. Just turn the delay on to tempo sync. We're going to leave the time at 6/16, and we're going to bring down this dry wet a little bit. And next up, if we take a quick listen to what we've got so far, it's getting quite pretty. Next up, we'll make another Thor instance. To make up for all the Maelstrom usage earlier in the 7-day song, we'll whore out Thor twice as much as normal. So this Thor instance is going to be for the metallic part of the tone that will plan hard left and right to really widen the sound. If you widen a sound with a completely different synth, you make it feel bigger than doing it with a chorus effect or something similar, since there is a defined central sound here, as well as the widened sound here in the spectrum. So we'll start with initializing it, and we're going to start with the amp envelope for a change. If we bring the decay and sustain down, you have decay around 400, and sustain bring right down to a similar level. And the release, just going to bring up slightly, 120-ish I think it was. And we're going to bring the filter envelope just to about the same values as we had in the previous instance. And on the filter itself, good to just bring that frequency slightly down and turn up the resonance. Gives it more of a high-pitched kind of tone. This makes for a short, sharp sound with that high-pitched attack, which is what happens if you strike metal. Now, for the oscillators, we're going to have this analog oscillator on sine wave mode, then a multi-oscillator on up-down, octave up-down, detune mode, I assume that means up-down, and turn it to full. Which I've just found that if you turn the amount to full here in the multi-oscillator with octave up-down, it gives you a nice instant 3-octave spread. I'll solo it out so you can check it out. So, without it, with it. Cool, huh? So these will give a slightly metallic sound. But the really metallic tone comes from the FM pair oscillator we're going to add in next. Turn it to carrier 4 with mod 8. Ooh. 4, 8. And we're going to turn the FM up to about 3/4 of the way around, so about 100. Now if we listen to it on its own, just completely random pitches, all very metallic, but when we combine it with the two synths that we've just made, it just sounds like you're striking a collection of slightly synthetic bells. Now to take these sounds and widen them into something massive. Take the left output of this DAW instance and mix it into a separate channel than the right one. So we're going to take the right and move it into channel 3. Then we're going to pan this one hard left and this one hard right. So overall so far we've got... See, it's much wider with this extra floor instance. Now for the first effect, we're going to right click and create RV7000 Advanced Reverb. Turn the decay up to about 115, something like that, and then dial it in on everything about 3/8 of the way around, so about 40 as a value to make it quite thick. And listen to how that really ties the sound together. Nice and echoey. Now, next up, make a delay, a DDL1 digital delay line to be specific. Route that into an ECF envelope controlled filter, and we're going to route the delay instance right into that filter. And then back. And we're going to turn the filter to bandpass mode. This means that all the delayed sounds that we're going to have here will be restricted to a small frequency range, therefore not muddying the mix up as much as a conventional delay, so we can have a nice long delay tail without being an absolute mess. Just a gorgeous noise. So bring the filter frequency up a little bit, and have 3 steps on the delay. Yep, that's good. And we're going to make another delay exactly the same. So if we duplicate devices and tracks, then just swap these. I'll just link it up. So output from the auxiliary into the delay, output from the delay into the filter, then from the filter back into the mixer for auxiliary 3. This time we're going to turn the steps to 5, so it's slightly different, and we'll move up the filter frequency a little bit as well. And then we're going to pan one of them left and one of them right. Now, if we apply these with varying amounts to the 3 mixer channels, so we're going to have it by about 30-ish to the main one for both of them. I'm going to have it nice and high and 40-ish for that one. Then for the other channel, we're going to do it the other way, nice and high for the other mixer. So that kind of means that there's slightly different delay tails on different sides of the stereo image. That makes it nice and wide. And let's take a listen. I think those could do with coming down in volume a little bit. There, we've got a nice bell-like arpeggio with tons of tonality. Takes a while, but it's frickin' awesome. So, let's move on to part 2 for a simpler lead that's got a healthy dose of comb filtering.